Hi, welcome to today's lesson covering working with tables and columns in Microsoft Word. This review is called W5.R1 Tips Wages. Please notice that today's lesson has a different protocol for naming the file W5.R1 tip wages dash last name with a lowercase of your first initial. In this lesson, we will add a typed paragraph to the first part of the document and then complete formatting a table that identifies wages and tips from around the United States. Specifically, we will focus on formatting borders in a table, changing the width of columns in a table, and changing the height of rows in a table. In this scenario, you work for the federal government in Washington, D.C. Your Homeland Economic Agency has asked you to prepare a simple table comparing a sampling of states and their food services minimum wages and tip management guidelines. Before we begin this exercise, let's first complete our basic Word documentation preparation. As a student in my class, you will need to open an existing Word document that has been made available to you in Google Classroom. Let's begin there. So when you come into classwork, you're going to look for the Word assignment. And you see there are the instructions and then also your starter document. So you'll click on that and I'll go through this procedure again. There's our document. We never cut and paste. Instead, we go to these three dots, open in a new window, and then we will download it into our downloads folder. And it should go down there pretty quick. And then we're going to come back and look for it in Finder in our downloads folder. And my goodness, we're running slow this morning. Downloads. Here it is, W5.R1. Then we're going to move it over to our BIM Word folder. And then we can rename it with your own last name, etc. And I'm going to double click on it, and there we have our starter document. Don't forget to go in and start your header off correctly. Oh, can't even do my own name today. All right. All right. So then, if we look back at our directions, download, yes, we did that. Create a header, yes, we did that. Process and format the text data. Format the article title to 14 point and bold. So this is our title right here. How much money can you make waiting tables? We're going to take that up to 14 point and bold. And then type the following paragraph under the title of the document, leaving one line of space after the title and one line of space before the existing paragraph below it. So you see I left a little note here in blue. Type in the text here. So I can highlight that line, and do not try to cut and paste this from your directions because it is actually a JPEG anyway in your directions, and it will mess up the formatting. You will need to go ahead and type this paragraph in right under the title. Do you know that restaurants typically do not pay you minimum wage to wait tables? Okay, this is something you may want to read about as you're entering the workforce. So now at the top of page 6, at the top of page 2, number 6, you should now have 2 paragraphs in the top half of your document. Please fully justify the text in both paragraphs, but do not include the article title. The title should be, when I bring this over here, it should be left aligned. The 2 paragraphs should be justified, which, we have left, center, right, justified. Justified is centered, but it has the straightened sides. All right, so I'm going to hit Command S to save, and then I'm going to come down here, and it says apply the following formatting changes to the table. Add a 1.5 point border to all the cells. So we've done this once before in another lesson. Remember, we select our table. Most efficient way is from the top. Then I'm going to go to the table design tab. I'm going to select my 1.5 point. I'm going to ignore this little paintbrush that my cursor turned into, and I'm going to go down to all borders, and you see that now makes those border lines that much bigger. The next one is bold and center align row 1. That's row 1. So I'm just going to bold it and center align it. That's what that looks like. And then I'm going to shade row 1 with light blue. So here I am, and I can do that with my paint can shading tool. It just says a light blue. Make sure I can read it. And then I'm going to change the column widths. And right here you can see the column widths that they give us. So column 1 is going to be to 2 inches. We find that under the table layout tab up here. Width is going to be at 2 inches, and I hit enter. And then columns 2 through 4, so 2, 3, 4 are going to be at 1 inch. Press enter. And column 5 right here will be at 1.5 inches. Hit enter. Okay, so that is how our table should be looking. Insert a row above row 1 that is merged and centered. So there's row 1. I'm going to highlight that. And again, this is something that we've done in a previous lesson. I go up here under this table layout tab to insert above. Notice it carried the blue with it. It also carried the bold and center with it. In the new row 1, it said merge and center. So I come up to this merge cells. You see that makes it into 1. And in the new row 1, add the text, what can I expect to earn by waiting tables? This is what you're going to type in. I'm using all caps. What I can expect to earn by waiting tables. All right, then we're going to format that text to make sure that it is 14 point. Okay. And bold and centered, just in case it didn't carry over, okay? Shade the new row 1 to light green. So this is the new row 1 now, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to make it a light green. Now I'm going to change the height of that new row 1 to 0.5. So that height is going to be 0.5 or half an inch tall. And I am, oh look, when it said centered, it said not only horizontally, but vertically. So to do that, we come over to this 9 patch. Remember, see how it's centered to the top, but it needs to be centered up and down as well. That's why we've got to pay attention to these little details in the instructions. All right, we're going to add a 3-point border around just the outside of both rows 1 and 2 combined. So I'll select both those rows. Now watch this. I come back to table design. I'm going to select the 3-point, and it wants me to go just around the outside of those 2 rows. So now when I come up to borders, I'm going to say outside borders, because those are the 2 that I've selected. It's still going to do the outside border of just those 2 that I selected, and you see how that works. All right, so now we're going to left align the rows in column 1 with the state names. So I'm going to left align the rows in column 1. I'm going to still select, because this is merged and centered, I'm going to have to come down here. Quickest way to do that is to click in the state cell, press your shift button, click in the last cell in the table. Aha, that's being sneaky, isn't it? All right, make sure that you get all of them. That's why I do it that way. and we're going to left align. Now, if you do have a row that dropped down, I would say come up here and delete any extra spaces you might have in your document. And that may include ones that are down here at the bottom. Another way that we can do that is if we click here, we can drop that lower. You see how I grabbed that there? All right. Yeah, it's not wanting to play nice. Okay. All right. So let's do this. Remove any extra line spaces so all your document data fits on one page, and that's what we were attempting to do. This may be because this had kicked it up to Calibri 12. I think that's what happened. So the new default on this was 12. Let's go back and click on these two paragraphs and take them down to 11 point. And you see that will make it all sit on one page. All right, apologize for that. I didn't realize it had done that. So the title should be 14 point. The two paragraphs should be 11 point. And then everything in here is 10 point, except for the first row, which was 14, and the second row, which was 10. All right, just that little recap. It should all fit on one page. Make sure you hit Command S. You're also going to do a spell check because of the paragraph that you typed. And then you're going to hit Command S again and Command W to get out of it. Go back into Google Classroom and attach it to the word assignment. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you soon. Bears.